A week from now, the Twins will have already played their first regular season game. Still a little business to conduct here down in Florida. 2 more Grapefruit League games this afternoon. The Toronto Blue Jays are in Fort Myers to take on the Minnesota Twins. It is a beautiful day here in Southwest Florida. Dick Bramer joined this afternoon by Jack Morris. A couple days ago, the Twins set their 25-man roster, and within that, the 5-man starting rotation.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Kyle Gibson's going to be number 2 starter, that Phil Hughes will follow him and flip-flop kind of from last year. Tommy Malone made the 4th spot, and Ricky Nolasco pitched well enough this spring. Tyler Duffy not so well, and he got the 5th spot. Ricky Nolasco, to quote Paul Molitor, his destiny is in his own hands.
Some questions about the back end of the Twins starting rotation. No questions about the front end. Irvin Santana, today's starter, will start the season opener.
Yeah, and it'll be kind of a final tune-up for Irvin here today in Fort Myers. He's pitched well. Unfortunately, the suspension that started off last year is kind of behind him now, hopefully, and he is going to lead the charge for the Twins as we start the season.
For what it's worth, and it's not worth much, the Twins have won 6 straight games down here. The biggest thing to take out of that, they're playing pretty good baseball. They hope to continue that through this afternoon's game, through tomorrow's game, and then up the East Coast to D.C., and then the season opens Monday in Baltimore. Twins have won 6 straight, a rain-shortened game here yesterday. About 3 o'clock or so, the skies opened up, and this field took an awful lot of water, but you'd never know it today. Absolutely gorgeous-looking field, and Target Field looking just as emerald green as Hammond Stadium here, Jack. We're very close to the start of the 2016 season.
Yeah, another great turnout here in Fort Myers. Fans still continue to watch the Twins. Now, the Blue Jays did not bring any of the regular starters to this game. I talked to John Gibbons about that, and he said, we're flying to Montreal tomorrow to play a couple games, and I just thought I'd let the regulars have a day off. It's a long trip down from Dunedin to Fort Myers, so it's going to be the Twins against pretty much a AAA lineup today.
Unlike the Twins, who are leaving tomorrow after the game against the Red Sox and going up to play a couple of games in D.C. and then opening the season in Baltimore, the Jays are going up to Montreal, then turning around, coming right back here. They open the season Sunday against the Tampa Bay Rays. Well, there he is, this year's opening day starter, Irvin Santana. Had a very good half year last year. You almost certainly know the story. Santana suspended for the first half of the year and gave the Twins 108 innings in a half season, and the Twins would like that to be extended now for a full season.
No question that Irvin deserves this opportunity to be the opening day starter. He pitched extremely well at times for the Twins last year. He's had a very good spring, and his last outing in particular, he's kind of right on point. So this is a final tune-up for him, and it'll be interesting to see how many innings, how many pitches Neil Allen and Paul Molitor will let him go today.
I think I knew the answer when I asked you this before the game, but you went through this start as Santana's going through it today. Your last start of spring training, what did you try to accomplish?
Well, it's more about just knowing that I had command of all three of my pitches. I wanted to feel that I not only could go finish a game, I mean, that was always our objective in our era, to finish the game, but I also wanted to know that I had command of those three pitches, because you cannot get by for a long period of time deep into a ball game with only one pitch. You have to have all three.
So just to summarize, your goal was to pitch a complete game in the last game of spring training that you started, and then send a telegram to your parents and tell them about it afterwards.
Well, unless I already had a couple complete games, and then it could be a short little 7-inning tune-up.
Right. Well, Santana will be the opening day starter Monday in Baltimore, and he will face first Roman Fields, center fielder for the Jays in their system. And the first pitch on the outside corner, a strike.
The Twins have a couple guys playing today that will not be on the opening day roster. Mastroianni is in center field.
And Santana makes the play. One quick out.
Getting ahead in the count, and the ball hit right back at him and fielding his position. Kind of an easy play for Irvin.
Andy Burns will hit next for Toronto. Burns, the third baseman. Of course, Josh Donaldson will be playing third base for the Blue Jays during the regular season. Pitch is up and in, ball one. And just off the outside corner, 2-0. We saw Santana last year, his first in a Twins uniform. He likes to work fast, changes speeds. There's a fastball hit to Mastroianni in center. 2 down. So this time Santana fell behind the batter, 2-0, and ended up getting him on a lazy fly ball to center.
You talked about pace of game for Irvin Santana. He does work quickly, and there's nothing more that position players like than a guy that grits the ball, gets the sign, and throws the ball. They don't like to stand around and watch guys shake off pitch after pitch after pitch and then nibble. He's the kind of guy that goes right after hitters, and that really keeps the infielders and outfielders on their toes.
And a first pitch grounder hit to Brian Dozier. Just a handful of pitches and a quick 1-2-3 first for Irvin Santana.
Twins game 2.
Top of the first inning for Irvin Santana. The Twins will send this batting order up against the Blue Jays here this afternoon. Brian Dozier expects to be the leadoff man for most of the season. Danny Santana, a super utility player, both an infielder and an outfielder. Joe Mauer DHing today. Trevor Plouffe had a good spring. Oswaldo Arce is on the team. So is Byung-Ho Park, Eduardo Escobar, Kurt Suzuki, and then the one guy who will start the season in the minors in the starting lineup today, Darren Mastroianni, and they'll all face, at least for a while, Ryan Tepera.
Tepera pitched in 32 games for the Jays last year, 33 innings pitched, and John Gibbons brought a bunch of relievers today. Some of the best part of their bullpen will pitch in today's game. Gavin Floyd was scheduled to start originally. He will pitch. He's a newly acquired starter that the Jays have.
And he'll pitch out of the Toronto bullpen. Here's Tepera's from the stretch first pitch to Brian Dozier, a called strike. You can understand why the Blue Jays made the switch. I mean, Floyd needs to get used to warming up and entering a game innings into the game rather than making the start. And so he will relieve at some point whoever's on the mound for the Blue Jays. One strike to Dozier and a ball whistled to left, a base hit. Dozier's had a good spring. He's tried to use the whole field more effectively. And he gets an opening base hit here in the first inning.
Well, a lot like yesterday's game where Brian Dozier led off with a first pitch home run. This is another fastball in that Brian Dozier's so good at getting his hands out in front of the baseball and pulling it by the third baseman.
Now Danny Santana. Twins saw him 2 years ago as the principal center fielder. They saw him last year as the opening day shortstop. And he's this year going to be a hybrid type of player. Flipped foul. He might be the first option on the bench or off the bench, both for the outfield and for the infield.
Well, you talked about him being a super utility guy. He can play all the outfield positions, 3 of the 4 infield positions. Danny is a very versatile guy, and he's got tremendous speed. He's had a very good spring. We talked about off the air that he has gained his confidence back, and he's swinging the bat quite well.
And when I asked him the other day whether he enjoys his new role, of course he said yes. What was he going to say? No, I don't want to be a super utility player. I wish I was the everyday shortstop, or I wish they'd just pick one position. He's not going to say that, but he does have to embrace the job, and he gets another base hit, dropping a single to right. Dozier had to hold up. There was a little hang time there, so he'll only advance to second base. But Santana has adapted. The Twins have not played him back-to-back in the same position at all this spring. So he's had the spring training to get used to playing a different position, has continued to hit well.
If you remember, he was brought into spring training in the not-too-distant past as shortstop. And he played primarily shortstop. So he had to get used to being able to go to the outfield and back to an infield position all over again. Of course, he did that when he was sent to Rochester last year, but anybody would agree they'd rather be here doing that than in Rochester.
Here's Mauer with 2 on, nobody out, and there's ball 1. The hope is that Mauer will be the first baseman this year for the Twins for in the neighborhood of 120 games. In those games where he will not be at first base, he might get some time in the designated hitter spot, and that will mean Byung-Ho Park will be at first base, and that's what we've got here this afternoon.
From what I've seen of Byung-Ho Park, not to divert the attention off of Joe, who's hitting right now, is he's done an adequate job at first base. He seems to be a lot better, I think, than a lot of Twins fans or even Twins people expected him to do defensively at first.
2-0 to Mauer with 2 on and nobody out. There's a strike. I talked with Paul Molitor about that this morning, and he said yes, he's had occasion to meet and get to know Tom Kelly a lot. Park has, with the first base drills over here on Tom Kelly Field. They've worked very hard on someone who is already an adequate first baseman and try to make him an even better one. Now that we've thoroughly jinxed him, it's 2-1 to Mauer.
Well, they do a lot of footwork, you know, in their fielding drills at first base. They've done that since I played for the Twins over in this small infield field right adjacent to the left field corner here at Hammond Stadium.
2-1 to the Twins DH this afternoon. Tapped foul. 2-2. Twins have a game here tomorrow against the Red Sox, and then, as we alluded to a few moments ago, they'll fly to D.C. for a couple of exhibition games against the Nationals, and we'll take a bus to Baltimore to open the season. Saw Mauer's numbers on the season. Says he feels a lot stronger, is seeing the ball better than he was a year ago. Takes ball 3 inside.
Well, Joe still is an integral part of this offense, and there's a lot of Twins fans that have wondered always, over the last couple seasons why Joe's hitting the 2 or 3 spot and why they haven't moved him down. And Paul keeps saying, well, my options are not a whole lot better. The guy's got a great on-base percentage, and he can make contact at any given point. So here he is in the 2 hole this year.
Lifted foul. Now, he's hitting third today because Miguel Sano is not in the lineup. The lineup we've seen a lot of in the last week or so, and we expect to see next week in Baltimore. We'll have Mauer batting second and Sano batting third.
Miguel Sano, by the way, hit an absolute monster shot yesterday here in the game against Boston. The ball landed over the catwalk in left center field up on the roof of one of the buildings out there.
Full count, some speed on the bases, but the runners stay put. Mauer grounds a sharp single up the middle. Dozier around third. He'll score. Santana to third. And this first inning starts with 3 singles and an early run for the Twins.
Twins put 2 on the board to start yesterday's game, and you mentioned they've won 6 straight ball games. Their offense has really started clicking here as spring training kind of winds down. 3 straight hits to start this game.
You know, we tend to focus an awful lot in the booth here on the pitching staff. It seems like that's, well, when you've had 4 straight awful years like the Twins have had, the #1 culprit is the pitching. So we can be excused for that. But one of the points of emphasis, if not the point of emphasis for the Twins this offseason, was improving the lineup, the run scoring. They did not feel like they did a good enough job scoring runs last year. Plouffe waves at a breaking ball. And you look at the, you know, what the Twins have done with their starting rotation. Well, Santana was here last year. So was Hughes, Gibson, Nolasco, Malone. They were all here. And the bullpen, a few changes along the way, but the core of the bullpen has returned. And instead, the Twins have added, you know, Byung-Ho Park, acquired John Ryan Murphy, the backup catcher. Tap foul, 2 strikes to Plouffe.
Yeah, and the Twins, by the way, have finally set their roster. They did that 2 days ago. Have gotten down to their final opening day roster. And Fernando Abad will be the new addition out in the bullpen. Michael Tonkin did make the team. And, you know, you've got Danny Santana and Oswaldo Arcia, who have made the team this year. So a few changes, but pretty much the same group of guys. And they're going to score their runs. I have a lot of confidence in their offense.
Breaking ball, and Plouffe waves at strike 3. 1 down. And that'll bring up Arcia. Arcia got off to a slow start here in spring training, picked it up in recent weeks. And that was a welcome sight for Paul Molitor and for Terry Ryan, because this player is out of options. And if the Twins, if he had not hit a little bit, hit very well actually over the last week or so, driving the ball against righties and lefties, if he had not done that, then it becomes a tough decision. Do you run the risk of losing a very young, very powerful young man to try to send him through waivers to send him down, or do you put him on the roster even though he didn't show any encouragement that he'd be able to produce? To me, the biggest challenge for Arcia and Santana as well, young players who will be expected to produce in a more limited capacity. You know, Arcia is just 24 years old, and he will demand, I mean, not demand, but he will require some regular playing time to hope to get any production from him off the bench.
Oswaldo got a couple home runs in a game recently, and that kind of really helped his stock and possibly gave him a shot of making this ball club, because they needed a guy, a left-handed hitter coming off the bench. You've got Sano that's going to play primarily right field, and Arcia's role will be to back up Sano occasionally. So Paul Molitor is going to use him in a pinch-hitting role late in the game, and you hope that he's got a little pop to maybe win a ball game with his bat.
2-1 to Arcia. Swing and a miss, 2-2. Talked about it on an earlier telecast down here. Arcia spent the winter, most of it, here in Fort Myers, working out, losing weight, trying to commit himself, reemerge as a player the Twins can count on. 2-2. And a strikeout. Tepera getting first Plouffe and now Arcia, and that'll leave it up to Byung-Ho Park. 3 singles, now a couple of strikeouts.
Tepera throwing another breaking ball there. Back-to-back Ks. Got Plouffe and Arcia on that same pitch.
And now here's Park. Has adjusted to everything very well after being signed from Korea in the offseason. Up and in, ball 1. Again, talking with Paul Molitor before the game today, specifically about Park. He said he's a quick learner and he pays attention. He will change his batting stance or his stride based on what he is expecting. Now, I wanted to get your perspective on this because Paul said of Park that it looks like he is a guess hitter. It almost sounds like an insult, but it wasn't intended that way because, you know, some of the best hitters, as long as it's an educated guess, it's a good way to go about business, isn't it?
I think until you get 2 strikes, every hitter's a guess hitter.
Big pop-up, left side of the infield. And all things considered, Tepera did a nice job, gave up 3 singles and a run early, but then retired the middle of the Twins order. It's 1-0. One to nothing. Twins in front. Casey Kochman, veteran journeyman, will lead things off for the Blue Jays here in the second against Irvin Santana, who misses the outside corner with a fastball, ball 1. Dick Bramer and Jack Morris bringing you the next to last Grapefruit League game. One more game here, a couple in D.C., and then the Twins get started on Monday for Rio. 2-0. Santana will face Kochman, Adams, and Hobson.
You look at the lineup that John Gibbons brought down here from Dunedin, and we talked about it already, that you can't really blame him for giving the guys a day off this road trip. But Kochman, the only guy with really any kind of big league experience in the lineup.
3-0, and Park with the fielding play and flip to Santana. Looked like Santana on 3-0 through Kochman an off-speed pitch and got him to roll over weakly to first. That's a veteran pitcher.
Well, that's a lot of confidence in his pitch too. You get behind a guy, and even though it's spring training, you know that a hitter's going to sit on that dead red fastball, and you pull the string a little bit, take something off, and you get him to roll a ball over your first baseman. Smart pitching.
David Adams will hit. Let's go back to what we were talking about going into the last break about Park, who made a fielding play there, flipping to Santana, and Paul Molitor describing him, I think, in complimentary terms, as a guess hitter.
Well, I believe deep down that all hitters are taught to be guess hitters until they're behind in the count. until the pitcher has 2 strikes. You're looking for a pitch in a certain zone as that ball's pulled foul. And you should have a plan up there. If a guy is known to start a hitter off with fastballs, you should be looking for a fastball, and you're looking for it in a zone that you like the best. So, in effect, I think all hitters are guess hitters until they're behind, and then they have to adjust to whatever the pitcher's throwing.
Down and away, 1-2.
I think, conversely, a pitcher has to recognize what a hitter's trying to do off of you. You know, if you sense that they're sitting fastball because their hands are quick and their feet are quick and they're kind of jumping out at the ball, then they might be more susceptible to an off-speed pitch. So
now you can tell that from the mound. To me, I would think that, a pitcher would be so locked in on the target, and his mind is so focused on the pitch and the delivery of the pitch. But yet, you're telling me, a pitcher's out there, a good one, will be able to sense what the hitter's doing.
It's kind of funny, and it doesn't make sense at all if you're really that tunnel vision that you can sense, the seam in the catcher's glove that you're throwing to as the center of the circle. But your peripheral vision has to pick up the movement of the hitter and how he is approaching that baseball. And sometimes it's already in the glove, and you recognize what that hitter's trying to do.
And there's a walk after getting ahead 0-2. Santana lost. David Adams. That'll bring up Casey Hobson. Hobson, a second-generation professional ball player. You may remember his father, Butch, principally with the Red Sox, former Red Sox manager. Used to see Butch here in Fort Myers a lot in spring training when he was involved with the Red Sox organization.
Hard-nosed player, Butch Hobson.
And a called strike, 0-1.
He had some very good years for the Red Sox.
Santana's got 3 ground balls. Look like to get another one here. There's a changeup and a swing and a miss. 0-2.
I talked to Neil Allen today down in the Twins bullpen and asked him about the staff in general and in particular what he expected out of Irvin today. And he says, he's at the point where he can go 100 pitches. And we know that as he strikes out Hobson. And I asked him, I said, are you concerned about innings? And he said, well, as long as I know guys can leave camp and leave camp knowing they can pitch 100 pitches, that's what they expect in the summer. So that's what they want out of guys. And they're all somewhere between 20 and 25 innings is what they expect out of them here in spring training.
Seen Santana display a really good changeup early on here today. And you can't help, I guess, but think back to last year and where Santana was in late March last year. He was ready to be the leader of this pitching staff. There's a ball hit to center, and it's the first base hit. Charged by Mastroianni, a 2-out single, first and second, 2 down. Neil Allen would tell you that he was relying on Santana an awful lot to be the guy to kind of lead the way, or in terms of this new approach the Twins pitchers are going to have, which is very reliant on the off-speed pitch. We've seen it here today. We saw it at the end of last year, and not so much just the innings or the effective innings that Santana would pitch. It was just kind of he was the guy. He was going to be the standard bearer for the starting rotation, and of course he wasn't able to contribute until July.
Yeah, and that really did put the Twins in a pickle to start the season. You've got your #1 guy, projected #1 starter, and he goes out of the game for a half a summer, and that put everybody else in an awkward position.
Whether it should have or not, I don't think there's any question within the organization that the timing of the suspension just about a year ago, right before, 2 days before the start of the season, was in part responsible for the poor start, the 1-6 start that the Twins had last year. 2-0. And off the plate again, 3-0.
Well, every one of the pitchers showed some signs of having the great year. Unfortunately, the innings were not anywhere near. Kyle Gibson led the Twins with 194 innings last year, and they need close to that on almost all 5 guys. And yet, Nolasco was shut down with his ankle injury for most of the year. He only pitched 30-some innings. Phil Hughes did not have anywhere near the number of innings in the kind of year he had the year before, where he was just outstanding and the #1 guy. So you look at a healthy spring training for the Twins bullpen or starters, and you get optimistic about what possibly could happen as Santana walks the bases full here.
Couple of walks and a hit with 2 down. The #9 batter, Melky Mesa, will hit. You know, the way many people perceive the Twins rotation, they don't have a #1. They don't have a Max Scherzer. They don't have a David Price. I don't think anyone would claim that they do. Fly ball right field. Arcia is out there drifting towards the line. Makes the catch. The Jays fill the bases. Santana leaves them there. It's still 1-0 Minnesota. Twins in front. They'll hit now in the bottom of the 2nd inning. Dick Bramer and Jack Morris, with the Twins hoping to finish strongly. More importantly, I guess, finishing healthy. And it's been a healthy spring training, and hoping that nothing happens otherwise.
Well, early in this ballgame, we talked about John Gibbons bringing a lot of bullpen guys today, and already after 1 inning, he's going to go to a new right-hander, Drew Storen.
Storen was in the mix as a candidate to close for the Blue Jays, and that decision was supposed to come tomorrow. It came today. Osuna, who was their closer last year, the youngster, will be starting the season as the closer, and if there's any faltering or any health issues at all, nice little backup to have Drew Storen on the team, who has a lot of closing experience. Eduardo Escobar will lead things off. First pitch lifted foul over the Twins dugout.
It's like the Twins, really. You've got Jepson out there and Perkins. Jepson was put into that closer's role when Perkins went down last fall, and he did a great job. And Paul Molitor has again named Perkins to start the season as the closer, but 2 guys that have the closing experience.
And that's where we've evolved, isn't it? I mean, you need to not only have a closer. In most cases now, you need to have 2 closers. Case in point, the Kansas City Royals, who lost Greg Holland, you know, who was a great closer for them for a number of years, an all-star closer. Bouncer to second, scooped up by Adams. Escobar retired. And the Royals, when Holland was done for the year with Tommy John surgery, they didn't miss a beat. They got better with Wade Davis.
Wade Davis, to me, one of the great stories in baseball. Here's a guy that couldn't really start for the Tampa Bay Rays and goes to Kansas City and evolves as one of the game's great bullpen guys. And he's not even been given the closer's role, but in a way, he is the entire bullpen, and Holland just kind of mopping up late.
He might have been their most valuable reliever, even when he was pitching the 8th inning instead of the 9th.
I was trying to say that in a more diplomatic way.
Here's Kurt Suzuki. He's had a really good spring, particularly the last week or so, showing some power. And he drives one to right field. Little flare into right field for a 1-out single. Twins with 4 singles already and 8 at-bats against Toronto pitching. And that'll bring up Darren Mastroianni.
It'll be interesting to see how Paul Molitor uses Kurt Suzuki. He's a veteran guy, tough as nails, gets beat up so bad and yet never shows it, wants to stay in every game, does a phenomenal job of calling a baseball game for the pitching staff. And I got to believe that Paul's going to try to keep him in there as much as he can.
Familiar name, familiar face, Darren Mastroianni, back with the Twins organization. Had a great spring. Kind of feel for a guy like Mastroianni among position players, Ryan O'Rourke among the pitchers. They did everything they could in March. And that one nearly clipped Mastroianni. They did everything they could in terms of performance on the field to win a spot. But in the end, there wasn't a spot for them.
And unfortunately, that's the reality of baseball. You don't win a position in spring training very, very rarely. It's usually because of injury that a guy like him, who can have a great spring, gets on the roster to start the year. With that being said, you hope he stays healthy and continues to play well so that he will be available should that happen once the season starts.
Close pitch called a strike on the check swing. 1-2.
Chris Colabello did a great job for the Toronto Blue Jays last year and surprised everybody, I think, in the Jays uniform. I was talking to John Gibbons today about Colabello and what his role was for them, and they never expected him to do what he did, but he had a great spring and made the team and had a great year for them.
2-2. And Mastroianni gets a piece to stay alive.
I personally hadn't seen Mastroianni until I got here this spring. Haven't seen him for a couple years, and he's bulked up. He's gotten quite a bit bigger, just as fast.
Yeah, the getting bigger part, as you and I can both attest, that's easy. Getting bigger from year to year.
It's not easy.
It's maintaining the speed.
Well, when you talk about bigger and I talk about bigger, we're not talking about girth. We're talking about muscle mass.
Right.
And that's not easy. You're going to have to work for that.
3-2 to Mastroianni. Not much speed at first with Suzuki. Suzuki stays put. Mastroianni again waits on an off-speed pitch and flares it foul. We talked about the depth in the organization as it might have developed by this point, with Mastroianni, a veteran, Carlos Quentin, a veteran, Ryan Sweeney. Well, Sweeney and Quentin are both out of the organization now. Quentin is going to retire. Sweeney, there's another base hit for Mastroianni. That's a good at bat, because with 2 strikes he had a couple of tough pitches to not do much with, but managed to keep the at bat alive, and then he found something he could drive to left field.
Well put. He worked that at bat and got a pitch in his favor and did something with it. I think that's the key to maturity as a hitter, is once you get a pitch that you can handle, don't miss it. You know, the great hitters never miss those pitches.
That's the type of at bat the Twins are hoping to see from the regular center fielder during the season, Byron Buxton. Getting to 2 strikes, but then, fighting some pitches off, keeping the at bat alive until maybe the pitcher makes a mistake and you can make him pay for it. Here's Dozier. Fouled away, a strike. Buxton not on the lineup today. Sano not on the lineup today. They'll both be there tomorrow for our telecast, one would think. Probably different for position players than pitchers. I mean, when you were going through your spring trainings here in Florida, you had things kind of mapped out in terms of how many appearances you were going to make, the physical progression, 50 pitches, 70, whatever, all the way up to, as you said, getting ready to start the season. I think it's different for position players. You know, if you're feeling good after 3 weeks, you want the season to get going. Yeah, and these other games and at-bats aren't going to do anything for you other than maybe tarnish your swing a little bit before the season starts.
A lot of my good friends, teammates, were hitters. And I think they had a plan also. They knew how many at-bats they would need to be in that position. But, you know, I could feel great my second outing and know I still wasn't ready. And I really think that's true about hitters, too. They need so many at-bats and then feel great to have the confidence to start the season.
Fly ball right field. Coming in is Dominic Brown. And it's the center fielder Fields. Makes the play, 2 down. That'll bring up Danny Santana. Santana with a single.
I think also, going back to that point, I think it all depends on where you're at in your career, too. Younger players, they can ride that emotion thing a lot easier because stiffness and soreness doesn't come into play as much for a young player. But as a veteran player moves along, mentally they know, they've been through it enough, they know where they need to be at. And then it's just a matter of them getting to that point.
And Santana takes inside. Big lead at second base. Big secondary lead by Kurt Suzuki. He gets back to the bag. 1-0.
You would think a Joe Mauer at this point in his career today knows more about what he needs out of spring training than he did when he was first or second year guy.
Into the right field corner. Santana keeps swinging it. Suzuki will score. Mastroianni's being waved around, and he will score as Santana glides to third base.
That's just good base running by the Twins right there. Gene Glenn, third base coach, is sending Mastroianni. There was a little bit of a boot by the second baseman in the relay coming from the right fielder. And Danny Santana really smart in picking that up. He's picking up, as we watch Danny Santana around first, he's going to be picking up Gene Glenn right there. You saw it. When that ball gets by the cutoff man, it allows Mastroianni to score and Danny Santana to scoot on over to third base.
6 hits and 11 at-bats for the Twins already in the game. And here is Mauer. Drove in the first run with a single. And he takes ball 1. Mauer hoping to do during the regular season what he's done here in spring training. We talked about Brian Dozier wanting to use the whole field. Well, so too does Joe Mauer. The difference, of course, Mauer trying to reestablish that he can hit the ball to his pull side. In Dozier's case, it's to hit it to the opposite field. And so far down here in Florida, Mauer's done a better job of pulling the ball.
I think every hitter wants to use the whole field. If you're Miguel Sano, you want to use the entire fence. And you have the ability to go out of the yard at any point.
Up and in 3-0.
But to open up those holes, you have to be able to spray the ball all around and hit the ball where it's given to you, whether it be inside or outside.
You know, Mauer's base hit in the first inning was up the middle. But we've seen teams shift the outfield, there's a strike on the outside corner, to the opposite field for Mauer, and the infield to the pull side.
And that's one of the reasons Tom Bernansky's worked so hard. Paul Mahler's talked with Joe Mauer, and Joe himself has worked so hard and buys into it. When you see a team positioning you to the same side that you're accustomed to hitting it to, then it opens up the whole other side, and all he has to do is try to find a hole over there.
Tapper to second. Easy play for Adams. Twins get 3 more hits and 2 more runs in the second inning. Irvin Santana delivering strike one to Roman Fields, who had a comebacker to the mound his first time up. Santana sailed through the first inning, struggled a bit with his control in the second, left the bases full, and now squirted left side. Escobar picks it up, throws on the run, not in time, an infield hit for Fields to start the third inning.
Fields gets down that line pretty quick. That was going to be a tough play for Eduardo Escobar, who has to go to his right and throw quickly, but pretty much a base hit all the way.
Andy Burns will hit next. Burns hit a fly ball to Mastroianni his first time up. Strike one. Twins 17 wins, 10 losses, and 1 tie. And Grapefruit League play. That's close play. Park was able to catch it. Put the tag on Fields. Blue Jays 17-5-2. Both teams will leave Florida tomorrow. Blue Jays will come back to open the season, while the Twins will stay in the Beltway area and open up against the Orioles. Tapper left side. Plouffe fires to second. Out there, relay to first, and a high throw from Dozier. And I'm not sure they would have gotten Burns anyway. It's fourth play at second base, 1 down.
Yeah, just 3 games remaining for the Twins before the bell rings, and you can look at spring training in so many different ways, but I think the only real way to look through it is, did everybody get their work in, and is everybody healthy? Because numbers are meaningless in that respect. Wins and losses, it is an exhibition, and it's more an opportunity to get in shape and be prepared for when the season does start.
And they've got him picked off, with Burns taking his secondary lead, then trying to get back to first. He slipped, and Park was there waiting for him with a baseball. 2 down.
That's a way to help yourself out if you're a pitcher. A quick move by Irvin Santana, and it looked as though Andy Burns slipped a little bit on his reaction to get back to the bag.
Change up over for a strike. Brown with a bouncer to Dozier his first time up. Hit to the gap in right center field, down for a hit. Mastroianni slides to cut it off, picks up the ball on the ground and fires it to the infield, holding Brown to a double. And the pickoff of Burns at first, a big play that might have scored him. Yep.
Well, Mastroianni hustling to get to that ball, but this ball was placed in a perfect spot that the hitter was going to get to second base no matter what he did. Whether or not that little fumble there didn't happen, he still would have got to second base.
Casey Kochman will bat. Kochman takes down and away, ball 1. Kochman's been in the big leagues with the Angels, the Braves, the Red Sox, the Mariners, the Indians, the Marlins. Spent all of last year in the Royals AAA farm club, Omaha. 2-0.
Keeps his bag ready. Is that what you're trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
Been around a little bit. And for some players, that's how they make their career. They're never really stick with one organization, but they seem to stick with a lot of them.
Here at Hammond Stadium, fans who've been here, I think, through the main entryway, there's a Scouts Hall of Fame listed there. And Terry Ryan's got a plaque there, and so does Casey's father, Tom. Longtime scout. Baseball family. Tapper right side, easy play for Dozier. And that wraps up the third inning. 3 more good innings by Irvin Santana and a 3-0 Twins lead. Twins in front. Kids opening day is coming up April 17th. The Twins taking on the Los Angeles Angels. It's a Sunday afternoon, first Sunday at home. And kids will have the opportunity to participate in special honorary activities by entering the Twins Kids Opening Day contest. Winning kids will receive 4 tickets to Kids Opening Day, a Kids Opening Day t-shirt, and the first 5,000 kids 14 and under will receive a Brian Dozier Kids Glove. For more details, visit twinsbaseball.com/kids. Left-hander Brett Cecil will come out of the Toronto bullpen to pitch to the Twins in the 3rd.
Well, Brett's a veteran, been around for quite some time wearing that Blue Jays uniform.
Erstwhile starter, converted to a relief pitcher back in 2012, and has given the Blue Jays 3 really good years as a setup guy. Occasional closer. He has 11 saves, 10 over the last 2 years. Off the plate.
Another one of those guys that really found his role in the bullpen. He struggled as a starter. They gave him opportunities to do that, and really struggled early in his years as a guy in the bullpen. But once he found it, he's been a valuable part of the Blue Jays bullpen, and really a staple out there.
In his last 2 years, 129 appearances and 107 2/3 innings. So he's brought in principally to face left-handed heavy lineups. He gets ahead of Plouffe 0-2 and now 1-2. Opponent batting average the last 2 years just over 200. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And a breaking ball over. Plouffe is out on strikes for the 2nd straight time.
He's kind of locked up Trevor there. Talked about guess hitters. Well, he's guessing the wrong thing right here. Kind of looking for the fastball, and Cecil throws that breaking ball and locks him up.
That'll bring up Arcia. Went down swinging his first time up. Matchups like this will go a long way toward determining whether Arcia succeeds or fails as a bench player.
What you're referring to, for those fans that don't quite understand it, is he'll come off the bench, but will he strictly only face right-handed pitchers? Here's an opportunity for him to prove to Paul Molitor and the coaching staff that he can handle lefties also, and that's more valuable. It makes his stock more valuable late in the game.
Inside 1-1. You say a bench player, you'd say, well, 250, 300 at bats. It might be a challenge for Arcia to even get that. You touched on it a few days ago when we were on the air. You're talking about a guy who's an outfielder, Arcia, and a DH type. And the Twins are going to put out there a very young and almost as athletic an outfield as there is in baseball, with Buxton in center, Rosario in left, and Sano in right.
Well, the other guys are going to have to play themselves off the field to give Arcia extended at bats, no matter how well he plays. And that's why it's important for him to start hitting the ball and doing the most with when he's given the chance. And I know that sounds like a lot of pressure, but that's the reality of where he's at right now.
2-2. And he waited on the off-speed pitch and got a piece.
He was guessing for that pitch and just missed it. And those are the opportunities. You're looking for a certain pitch. He waited well on that. His timing looked right, but he just missed the pitch.
2-2 to Arcia.
Gonna go with the breaking ball here.
Just missed the inside corner.
Oh, yeah.
Might have been a cutter.
I was going to say, you don't really see that too much. I think that was the fastball. Maybe the catcher and him have got the first, number 1 and number 3 turned around. They do that occasionally. It looked like a fastball to me.
3-2. And Arcia gets a piece, but the catcher Hangs on for another strikeout, 2 down, and that'll bring up Byung-Ho Park. Quintero does Quintero does a nice job hanging on to the foul tip, and now here is Byung-Ho Park. Hit a pop-up tall one to shortstop to end the first inning. Up and away, ball 1. And a called strike, 1-1. I talked with the Park the other day through his translator, J.D. Kim, and asked him what the biggest difference was here in this country in spring training as to compared to what he had experienced in Korea. He said the biggest thing here is it's more relaxed and fun here. And we've heard about that. I've never been exposed to baseball in Japan or Korea, but it's a much more business-like atmosphere over there, and that's what Park was alluding to. People are not afraid to, have fun at the ballpark, joke with each other, and I think he's kind of embraced the change, to be honest with you. He's feeling very, very comfortable here. This one hit to center within range of Fields. He makes the catch, and Brett Cecil has a 1-2-3 third inning. Cloudy, temperatures expected to climb into the mid-80s. A beautiful day here. And the Twins playing the Blue Jays today. The Red Sox here tomorrow. And then the Grapefruit League play will be done for the year.
You seen any grapefruits?
Yes, actually. One of the local fruit merchants was handing.
I mean trees.
Oh, no.
You would think that it would be mandatory for every Florida team to have a grapefruit tree right in front of their entrance.
As they do in Arizona, there's cactuses everywhere, right?
Yeah, well.
Cacti?
Something like that.
Okay. Down and away, and it's 1-1 to the leadoff man, David Adams, here in the Toronto fourth. Adams walked his first time up. Walk came with 1 out in the second inning. Swing and a foul, 1-2.
Now we're noting that this is the final tune-up for Irvin Santana, and he's pitching to his opening day battery mate, health being no issue, and that is Kurt Suzuki. And you can see that they've been working on all the pitches. Santana throwing a variety of off-speed pitches, but throwing his breaking ball to get ahead, throwing it behind in counts, throwing the changeup behind in counts, which would be fastball situations for the hitter. So it appears that they're ready, poised to start the season.
One and two to Adams. Hobson and Meyer will follow. Down and away, 2-2.
Another interesting point about spring training I think bears mentioning is for a young pitcher, I think it's always important that you face the real lineup, the major league lineup. You need some at-bat or some opportunities to face guys. But as your career goes along, you would prefer to pitch to these guys, the minor league AAA type players, because you don't want that hitter to see you too many times. You know, you get to a point where you're comfortable with how you're going to pitch him, and the more you expose yourself to him, the advantage goes to the hitter.
2-2. And a swing and a miss. Santana reaches back for 94 miles per hour to get a swinging strikeout.
Second strikeout of the game for Irvin. And you mentioned the fastball. He just puts it in a good spot, down and away.
We'll bring up Hobson. Well, you mentioned you don't want, from a pitching standpoint, for hitters to get too familiar with you. I mean, the Twins, when the Orioles would be the opponent, you know, they'd put their starting pitchers almost in the witness protection program to make sure that they weren't going to get any exposure to the Baltimore lineup. Phil Hughes would be playing in a minor league game, getting his work in elsewhere. Grounder to Dozier in a quick second out. And that'll bring up Meyer.
Yeah, it used to be that's the way you would go about spring training, because early in spring, you've got a full roster on everybody's team. There's kids from the minor league camps that are getting at bats. So you don't worry about it too much, and everybody would want to play the regulars for that last week. And so that was the time that maybe a starting pitcher would get a game over in the minor league camp against a AAA team. But it's kind of reversed that, it seems like, here as baseball has evolved in this generation.
And it depends a little bit, too, on what the regular season schedule tells you to do. You know, the Twins open the season in Baltimore again this year, and then they'll face Cactus League teams for the next basically 3 weeks. But when your first series of the season is against a team you might, well, the Twins face the Orioles, what, 4 times this year, I believe. Well, then it makes sense that you'd want your pitchers to not be exposed to the other guy's hitters.
Well, we play in a crazy game now with interleague play that you play your own division 19 games, and quite honestly, I think that's very difficult for a starter, especially if you have trouble with your own division.
Right.
And if your own division's very, very strong and they've got great pitching, you're going to face that same lineup 3, 4, maybe 5 games a year.
There were 6 matchups this year between the Orioles and the Twins. And a called third strike, and Santana has another 1, 2, 3 inning. A couple of strikeouts along the way here in the 4th.
If it's at the
Towards the beaches of Fort Myers and Sanibel. You can find your island, find warm white sand beaches, and find the moments that always end too soon but become memories forever. Visit FortMyersSanibel.com. Dick Bramer, Jack Morris, bringing you Twins baseball this afternoon. Bert Blyleven will be back in the chair again tomorrow. And then the Twins will break camp And chances are, with temps in the upper 40s, low 50s, it won't be drinking too many slushies at Camden Yards next week when the Twins open up the season. Maybe some hot coffee, hot chocolate.
Just hope that the field doesn't look like that slushy.
Eduardo Escobar will lead things off. It was what, 4 or 5 years ago the Twins opened the season in Baltimore, and they'll get a chance to do that again this year. There's veteran starter Gavin Floyd. Twins saw plenty of him in his White Sox days, and he has won a job for the Blue Jays, but not in their starting rotation. Floyd asked to fill a long relief role, and of course that's a topic too for the Twins, who, when the dust settled and Michael Tonkin made the team for the Twins, Tonkin usually a one-inning guy, but now the Twins, in the time left in spring training, are going to try to stretch him out, and that long relief role for Toronto filled by a veteran former starter. And at least at the start of the year for the Twins, it'll be a reliever, Michael Tonkin, usually going an inning or so at a time, and he might be the guy expected to pitch maybe 3 or 4 innings eventually. 1-1 to Escobar. Swing and a miss, 1-2.
Gavin Floyd was a big part of that White Sox rotation, like you talked about. He signed an extended big contract with Chicago White Sox, and then kind of fizzled out in the last couple years, and the Blue Jays hoping to maybe resurrect him, a la so many guys that have been starters and still find a way to kind of resurrect their career as a bullpen guy.
Meyer throws out Escobar, 1 away, and that'll bring up Suzuki. And Floyd having some words with Escobar, of course, former teammates with one another with the White Sox. You always did that, I'm sure, whether you were pitching to Lance Parrish or somebody like that when you moved around.
Some of the
later.
hardest things you ever have to do is to face a former teammate.
Down the middle, a strike. That clocked at 95, so arm strength, arm speed, not a problem for Gavin Floyd. He's still got some velocity.
I got to tell this story about a former teammate that I faced when I came to the Twins.
Pulled foul.
Cecil Fielder, the father of Prince Fielder. A great hitter, one of the game's best in my opinion, and just a fun-loving guy, one of my personal favorite teammates. And he comes up to the plate for the first time when I'm in a Twins uniform, and he's laughing. And I step off the mound and I yell at him, "You can't laugh. I mean, it's hard enough anyway. You can't laugh." And he says, "I'm going to get you." And I don't know what happened, but he got on first base, and he had never had a big league stolen base. So I didn't even look at him. And he takes a big, long lead, and he goes back, and he says, "I'm going to get you." And I said, "Cess, you're not going anywhere." And the next pitch, he takes off, and he steals second base. And he grabs it like he's Ricky Henderson, pulls it up, and he's going to have it taken off and saved.
This is a regular season.
This is a regular season game. And I look at him and go, "You didn't steal that. I gave that to you. It's a gift." And that's the kind of thing that it's just hard to face your old teammate, especially when he's one of your buddies.
Here's Mastroianni, got another base hit and a run scored in the second inning. Suzuki called out on strikes, and now Mastroianni with a bouncer to third. And Gavin Floyd, like Brett Cecil, has a quick 1, 2, 3 inning.
It's ancient.
We're already up to the 5th inning. We have time to remind you that Target Field suites are available for single game rental for groups of 16 to more than 150. Enjoy a climate-controlled atmosphere, great view of the game, all with food and beverage included. Go to twinsbaseball.com/groups or call 800-33-TWINS. On to the 5th. And Quintero, the catcher, will lead things off against Irvin Santana, and there's strike one. The hope was, and it looks like it might happen, that Santana would give the Twins at least 6 innings. Trevor May needs to pitch. Ryan Presley needs to pitch. Some other pitchers are available if the Twins feel the need, but if they could get even 7 out of Santana and have May and Presley each pitch an inning, that would meet their requirements. Their hoped for goal pitching wise here today. 1-2.
Brings up an interesting thought that just came through this old skull of mine, and that is it better for Irvin Santana to pitch down here in Florida and extend his last start in this nice warm weather, or to get a little bit climatized to that 40-degree stuff that they're going to have that first couple of weeks of the season? And I think Kyle Gibson going to get a start up there? There will be 2 pitchers getting starts in Washington.
Well, I would imagine Nolasco will get one. Twins will take some extra players up there. As you might imagine, it's not going to be it not being a pair of games that count. James Beresford, Darren Mastroianni are going to go up there to D.C., even though they won't be making the trip to Baltimore, and some pitchers as well. Well, Santana pitching here today would be due to have a bullpen session.
Yeah. Well, that's different.
Yeah.
But it'll probably be Tommy Malone, the number 4 starter, and Ricky Nolasco, the number 5 starter, that'll get the last 2 starts.
Malone, I think, is going to stay here in Florida and then meet the team in Kansas City. He'll continue to, get his workout down here.
Well, that addresses one of the questions that was just put forth.
And then there's an off day in Baltimore, too, so I think things would be stretched out. Here's a ball hit fairly hard on the ground to Dozier. With Gibson lined up to pitch tomorrow, I would guess Phil Hughes would and Ricky Nolasco would make the starts in Washington. And then Hughes would be set to pitch the Thursday game in Baltimore. 1 down, and here is Mesa. 1 strike. And then a little bit of an irony here. The Twins come back to D.C. in 3 weeks to play games that matter. Second road trip for the Twins, 2 in Milwaukee and 3 in Washington, which I'm sure the discussion's already been made in the Twins clubhouse. That means every Twins starting pitcher will get a chance to hit. Dozier can't quite control the carom, and Mesa will reach.
Dozier, knowing the speed of that base runner, Melky Mesa, he can get down the line pretty quickly. He does a good job of getting that body in front of the ball, and then when he goes to field it, just jumps the gun a little bit, doesn't go into his hand, and at that point, no chance of getting the runner.
A hit for Mesa with 1 out in the 5th. And that'll bring up Fields. Fastball missing down and away, ball 1.
It'll be the 4th hit off Irvin Santana. He's been very efficient so far. 3 strikeouts, 2 base on balls. They both came in the 2nd inning.
Tapper left side, Escobar in the hole, and he can't make the play.
Yeah, that was going to be, you could see that was going to be a tough play. No chance for Trevor Plouffe to go to his left to get that. And once it got by him, Mesa runs well. He was already almost standing on second base, so you knew that it was going to be a play that would be a bang-bang play to try to get Fields.
So now 1st and 2nd, 1 down. Andy Burns, the batter. How many times when you broke camp did you have a little exhibition series somewhere on the road?
Didn't happen. Those things didn't happen back in my generation. You do all your games here, and you'd get ready, and you'd start on the road or start at home. I don't think I ever did that.
Somewhere around that time, early 90s, I recall, I don't remember the exact year, the Twins played an exhibition series in Las Vegas against the Padres right before the start of the season. 1-0, and now 2-0.
The only thing I can remember is the Blue Jays when I was in Toronto after I left Minnesota. Not right out of spring training, but we played an exhibition game in Montreal. And we also played one in either Saskatoon or Regina. That was against the minor league team on off days, which didn't make players very happy.
Big pop-up right side. Park and Suzuki. And Suzuki can't quite get to the screen in time. That ball was in play with the wind blowing it more toward the catcher than the first baseman.
Well, the way it ended up, it was going to be a tough play. Kurt Suzuki battling the sun a little bit, the clouds, the high sky, and you can see where it landed right on top of that padding off of the netting there, but didn't quite get over quick enough once he found the ball. So that'll give Andy Burns another chance.
And give Santana a chance to get a ground ball to short here. Oh, instead of swing and a miss, 2-2.
Pretty good size hole on the left side, and of course the right side, both middle infielders playing towards the bag, anticipating that double play ball. Escobar and Dozier. So there's holes in the left side and the right side between third and short and first and second.
And now 3-2. In the case of the Twins and the Blue Jays, the fact that both teams are leaving tomorrow, it's the 31st of the month, and then they'll be gone. The Twins will be gone out of Fort Myers. Blue Jays will be gone out of Dunedin. And a base hit to right field. Mesa will be waved around third. Arcia's throw coming to the plate, coming through, but not in time. 3 straight singles, and the Blue Jays get on the board. It's 3-1.
Well, Andy Burns doing a good job of finding that hole I just talked about, right between Joe Mauer and Brian Dozier. A little ground ball placed perfectly, and that'll score the Jays' first run.
Dominic Brown will hit. 5 hits, 4 singles and a double for the Blue Jays, and now a 3-1 ball game, tying run at first with 1 out. And strike 1.
Irvin's had a little bit of work out of the stretch today. He's had 2 1-2-3 innings, that the first and the fourth inning, but the other innings he's had to throw out of the stretch.
Lifted foul over by the Twins bullpen, and the Twins have some activity down in the bullpen, as you can see. Down and in, 1-2. I don't know if you say Santana is happy he's in this situation, but ultimately, a good pitcher and a pitcher who struggles, it largely depends on what they do in situations like this. Hit to center. Mastroianni coming in, and it'll play it on a hop, and everybody's safe. Well, the ball skipping through the infield.
You saw the reaction, the initial step back from Darren Mastroianni. As this ball's made contact, you see him going back and then hesitating. Well, in defense of the center fielder, that is the toughest ball to read. You don't know if it's hit hard, soft, and you need it to get some elevation before you can determine that. But those are the difference makers. You and I were talking about some of the best center fielders that ever played behind me, and Devon White was probably the best. And I put Kirby Puckett in that group, but he played so shallow that was the kind of ball that Devon White would get to. As Paul Molitor is going to make a pitching move right here. So Neil Allen and Paul determined that Irvin's had enough work here today. He'll come out of the ball game.
4 straight hits. And he comes off the field with the lead. And we will come back and tell you about the next Twins pitcher in just a moment. He spent last year in the minor league system, most of the year here in Fort Myers, promoted to Chattanooga last year, and he comes in, albeit in a game that doesn't matter, but in a big spot, bases loaded, one down, and the most veteran of the Toronto players who's come down here from Dunedin, Casey Kochman, at the plate.
Well, here's an opportunity to kind of impress your manager at the big league level. You're facing a left-hander, you're a left-hander relief pitcher, and you need an out. You desperately need an out. And you're facing, like we said, the one guy in the lineup who has major league experience. Irvin Santana got him early in this ball game, his first plate appearance, when he fell behind in the count, threw a changeup, and got him to roll over a little ground ball to Byung-Ho Park at first base.
Product of one of the best college programs in the country, Vanderbilt University.
A guy named David Price, right?
Mm-hmm. And over for strike one. Perfect situation for Williams, as he's never started professionally and has always been, one and a fraction inning guy. Tapper right side and foul, but if he can get left-handers out, that would accelerate his climb to the big leagues.
Well, this is the situation that every pitcher struggles with, and the great ones have something extra. That's when you're ahead in the count, you need a put-away pitch. He's thrown 2 breaking balls and really probably shouldn't throw another one.
And a solid single to center. And it'll tie the ball game. Throw coming to third base. It's coming through, and the ball hits the runner. Nobody covering home plate, and now both Plouffe and Park do that, with Williams and Suzuki picking up the errant baseball in front of the Twins dugout. So now it's a tie ball game. 5 straight hits for the Blue Jays.
Well, this is a young man's mistake, quite honestly. You're ahead in the count. He throws a fastball on the outer half of the plate. It wasn't quite down enough, quite away enough, but yet a veteran hitter kind of understanding the situation, and you make a mistake. Those good hitters, they just don't miss it. And those 2 runs will be charged to Irvin Santana.
Kochman to second on the throw. And now David Adams. And ball 1. So the line not complete on Santana yet. He's still responsible for the runner at third, Dominic Brown. First 2 hits this inning, remembering Santana kept the ball in the infield. Dozier had a tough play and didn't make it, and then Escobar, I'm not sure, had a play, but it was just a little squibber off the end of the bat. Burns and Brown followed with hits. Kochman with a hit. And now 3-0 to Adams. Coming into the year, Williams with 154 and 2/3 innings pitched and 78 walks. 13 hit batters, so control has been an issue for Williams. And a walk will fill the bases.
That happens so often for young pitchers where they come in, give up a base hit, lose the concentration and focus right away because of that, and end up walking the next hitter on 4 pitches. And now he's just got to regroup. Kirk Suzuki, the veteran catcher that he is, going out there and trying to get him to refocus, settle in.
This is his 6th year of professional baseball, and it's almost more noteworthy if a pitcher who's been pitching professionally for as long as Williams has, it seems more noteworthy if he didn't miss a year because of Tommy John surgery. But Williams missed 2014 and then came back last year, and granted in Class A ball, then Double A. Opponent batting average of well below 200 over those 2 levels. 1-0. That's a little dribbler, and Suzuki will try to get back to the bag, or home plate rather, and he gets the speedy Brown. The veteran catcher had to think about it and then make an adjustment.
You don't see this play every day. Kurt Suzuki coming out of the box thinking about going to first. Then he realizes bases are full and there's a chance that he can get the lead runner at home. And he comes back and gets him. Field and Colbreth, the home plate umpire, ruling him an out at home.
2 unassisted.
Yeah, you don't see that every day.
I bet you I haven't written that down 5 times in my scorecards over the years. Here's Casey Hobson. No. I beg your pardon.
I don't have a 53 written down.
58, Gio Meyer.
58.
1 for 2 on the day. Now what happened to Hobson's spot?
Well, who was ever just at the plate, that's where we missed it. Meyer's been there all day. So
I know. Oh, I'm sorry, Hobson. Yep, gotcha. One for 2 for Meyer, just catching up on some paperwork here. Fly ball right center field. Arcia will chase it and get there. So the Blue Jays string together 5 straight hits and end up getting 3 runs to tie the game in the top of the 5th as they bat around. Bottom of the 5th inning, the Twins Flex Plan gives you the flexibility to choose your games and your number of seats. You can choose in advance or even the day of the game. So don't plan, Flex Plan. Go to twinsbaseball.com/flex or call 800-33-TWINS to learn more. Dick Bramer and Jack Morris here in Fort Myers. The Blue Jays tied it up, stringing together a bunch of hits in the top of the inning.
And Gavin Floyd towing the rubber for his 2nd consecutive inning in relief here today.
Again, in the role that he's going to fill for the Blue Jays, at least at the start of the year, long relief. And John Gibbons wants to run him out there at least through this inning and maybe even another inning. Brian Dozier leads things off. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And Dozier's aboard.
That's the way Rod Carew has tried to teach the Twins to do it for a long time. Brian Dozier lays down a perfect bunt, takes a peek twice, try to determine his speed. Not that he's got any more fuel in the tank to put on that nitrous.
And that'll bring up Danny Santana, who already has a single and a 2-run double. Strike one. As surprising as Santana's season was in 2014 on the plus side, his 2015 was equally as disappointing. In 2014, the Twins were having their 4th straight long losing season, and we had heard about Buxton and Sano and even Rosario to some degree. And instead it was Danny Santana and Kenny Vargas who stepped in middle of the season and immediately, and I mean immediately, produced.
Yeah, both guys had tremendous months.
2 strikes to Santana. Hit hard but foul.
And yet here it is, Danny Santana, who's kind of maturing quicker and filling a role for the Twins, and partly to do because of his versatility and his speed. Kenny Vargas, big, strong hitter, switch hitter, but was released earlier in this month, or not released, but sent back. And he'll have to start the year in Rochester.
Off the plate, 1 and 2. And it could very well be that in some twisted logic that there might be less pressure on Santana as a super utility player than there would be asking him to play just one position. And Santana fights off a pitch down and away with the runner going.
Yeah, it looked like that might be a hit and run or a run and hit. Either way, Danny Santana kind of protecting Brian Dozier, who took off with the pitch.
I mean, logic would dictate, I think, that asking a player to play one position every day would, even though shortstop is a critical position, that would be easier than asking someone to do what Santana is going to be asked to do. To right field, and catch made. Dozier almost is in fact going to be doubled off. Nice play by Dominic Brown in right field, charging, making the catch, and the release quick enough to retire Dozier.
Well, I think Brian Dozier was reading that ball initially off the crack of the bat that it might drop and that he was thinking about third base, and yet that ball held up a little bit, and once it did, he didn't react quick enough to get back to first base, so he's doubled up.
So a good play by Brown, a mistake by Dozier on the bases, 2 down, and that'll bring up Mauer.
Getting back to Danny Santana and what you're talking about, I can only conclude that Danny Santana's sophomore year was just not, and some players go through that. I think they just kind of expect that whatever they did their first year they can repeat or, do better than. And Danny had such a good first year as Gavin Floyd comes out of the ball game. that it's hard to duplicate that, and maybe maturity and confidence is back where he can come close to it.
2 down in the 5th and a pitching change for the Blue Jays.
Twins spring.
He really kind of deserved the closer role last year late in the season. He got it mid-season, and really through the Blue Jays' run to the pennant last year was the closer. And he's got electric stuff. But you're right, it's kind of an odd situation. Why would John Gibbons bring him in here other than to maybe face a veteran hitter in Joe Mauer and maybe bring him back for one more inning next inning?
See if he could maybe stretch his closer out to maybe get 4 outs rather than 3. We'll see if that's how it plays out. 0-2 pitch, and he got in on the handle of Mauer's bat.
95-mile-an-hour fastball there, and he can touch the high 90s.
20 saves last year for the Blue Jays. Pitched in 68 games.
Talking to Pete Walker last fall about Osuna, he said he's got all the confidence in the world, but he needs to perfect an off-speed pitch. Throws everything hard. That one 97.
Yeah, Bauer's wasted a couple of 0-2 pitches. Oh, 0-2. Off-speed pitch down and in, 1-2.
Well, Joe Mauer read that pretty well. You could see that Osuna slowed his body down on that changeup, and even though the number 83 miles an hour was a great difference between his fastball, when you slow your body down, a veteran hitter can really pick that up.
You were talking about your changeup through your career, and you said that you didn't have the best arm speed with your changeup either.
No, I couldn't throw the circle change. I tried it, but I just didn't have command of it. So I did what they call drag your back feet and kind of pull the shade down type of changeup, and it was just well, quite honestly, it was not a great pitch, but it was slow enough that hitters were sitting on either fastball, slider, forkball, and they just froze most of the time. So if I could just get it over, I was almost like a free pitch for me. But I didn't always do that either.
Well, I remember you very often in your 1 year with the Twins, you would use it in as the opening pitch of an at-bat. As you said, hitters weren't going to swing at it, and you could get ahead 0-1. And Mauer on a pitch down and in, strikes out. Twins get a bunt single from Dozier, but just 3 men bat, and we're tied at 3. Inning tied the game up, and Quintero will lead things off against Casey Fiend. No surprise that Fiend made the bullpen for the Twins. Twins will go with a 12-man pitching staff, 7 relievers, 5 of them right-handed, and Fiend, the veteran, hoping to forget all about his spring training numbers. As a veteran, you have the luxury of being able to do that and just continue to give the Twins what he has given them, very effective 7th and 8th inning relief work.
Yeah, we already talked about Michael Tonkin making the roster in the bullpen, Fernando Abad, and of course Casey Fiend, Kevin Jepson, Trevor May, Glenn Perkins, and Ryan Presley all out of the bullpen.
Quintero will lead things off. Mesa will bat next, and then Fields. Fastball and strike one. Fastball clocked at 93, and when you pitch, radar guns, speed measurement was just kind of entering the game, at least in terms of public awareness. And this one fouled back over our heads at 94, but Casey Fiend right where he wants to be velocity-wise. Everything physically is built up to the point where he should be ready to go in the regular season.
You brought up a good point, Dick, about the radar gun and generations difference. And, you know, everybody, it seems like, if you're a power type pitcher, whether you're in the bullpen or a starter, are touching the mid-90s and above. And I can honestly say that the majority of starting pitchers in my generation probably, I mean, their best fastball was in the low 90s. You had the rare Nolan Ryan types that were in the high 90s. But those guys were really few and far between. As Casey Fiend throws that cutter, I think, right there, and gets his first strikeout. But what you're seeing today is the involvement of a specialty guy, 1 and 2 innings, and, you know, really letting it go. And the pitchers of our generation were conditioning themselves to endure 7, 8, 9 innings. So I think that's why the radar gun was never as high as what you're seeing today.
One down. Here is Mesa. I remember years ago, the Metrodome was one of the first ballparks, if I can use that term, that used or flashed the velocity rating up on the scoreboard for the fans' edification, enjoyment, whatever. Here's a pop-up short right. Arcia makes the catch for out number 2. And Roger Clemens said, well, this is back in the middle of his Boston tenure. He said he actually hurt his shoulder one year because he wanted to hit whatever the threshold was, 95, 97, whatever it was, but he would throw a pitch at the Dome and then look up at the reading, and if he wasn't happy with the velocity, tried to do a little bit more. So, you know, it's commonplace now, but here's a pitcher, you know, controversy aside, Hall of Fame credentials, and even he got caught up in where he was throwing and how hard he was throwing.
Well, it's always been said, it's not how hard you throw it, it's where you throw it. And the object is to miss bats, not light up radar guns. Good job right there by Casey Fiend, fielding his position.
And a handful of pitches and a 1-2-3-6.
Toyota dealer. Toyota, let's go places.
3-3 our score. Heading to the bottom of the 6th inning. Live Twins baseball is back in 2016 with MLB.com at bat on your smartphone or tablet. Stay connected with the Twins all season, wherever you are, with live radio broadcasts, stats, breaking news, and more. Download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball. Well, Trevor Plouffe will lead things off for the Twins here in the 6th. First pitch grounded to third. 3 hops to the third baseman Burns, 1 way. That'll bring up Arcia.
Roberto Osuna back on the mound, and his first pitch is converted into an out, being very efficient.
Arcia with a couple of strikeouts, both of them swinging. As has been his stance since becoming a big leaguer years ago. Slightly open stance for Arcia. Twins have seen some encouraging signs of Arcia's ability to drive the ball to all fields. This Twins team, regardless of how many at-bats Arcia has, this Twins team is positioned to strike out an awful lot. They hope run production will be up this year, but 1 through 9, there are going to be a lot of strikeouts in this batting order. 1-1. Just off the plate, 2-1.
We earlier mentioned Kenny Vargas and the fact that Danny Santana and Kenny Vargas had a real good first couple months in the big leagues and then faltered last year. And right now it's a case where Arcia, because of his number of years or where he's at in his career, and if the Twins send him back, he could go through waivers. Somebody could claim him, where Vargas doesn't have the situation. That may be a part of the reason that Kenny Vargas is no longer on the team right now. Is spring training about to exterminate, go north for the year, and Oswaldo Arcia has made the team because of that very fact. They don't want to lose him to another ball club.
Two and two to Arcia. Young Ho Park will hit next. A little hesitation by Osuna.
A lot of Asian pitchers will have that pause, but you don't see it very much. And that's kind of unique. We'll take a look at it here, where he comes set, comes up and pauses. Just a check of your balance. It's kind of smart for pitchers to do that occasionally, mess up the hitter's timing.
And now down and away, another full count to Arcia. You're right. I think it was Warren Spahn who described pitching, said hitting is timing and pitching is messing up a hitter's timing, or words to that effect. On the ground, several hops to the second baseman Adams. And why pitchers wouldn't experiment a little bit more out there. Back in the old days, you might see newsreel footages, and this is back when just about everybody used the overhead windup, and they would go ahead and wind up twice just to make the hitter wait a little bit more for the delivery of the ball. 2 down. Here is Park. A pop up to short and a fly ball to center so far. Up and in, ball 1.
Well, the great one of the generation prior to mine, and I saw the last part of his career with Louis Tiant. He was the guy that came from every arm angle and would spin and turn. And
Johnny Cueto did that for the...
Cueto is trying to sort of be the modern day version of Louis Tiant.
1-1, a breaking ball. Good challenge here for Park, because Osuna can get it into the upper 90s. The first pitch to Park, 96, and then the breaking ball, 1-1. Paul Molitor said that going into spring training, he thought that would be the biggest challenge for Park, picking up the additional velocity he sees here compared to what he saw in Korea. And so far, according to the manager, he's handled it very well. Now, every hitter is going to have more trouble with 96 than he's going to have with 91 or 92.
That's why every scout in the world's looking for guys that can touch the radar. You know,
that's right.
It's all about how quick that hitter has to adjust.
2-1. And 95,
you know,
3-1.
In a crazy sort of way, I look at baseball and how it's evolved, and I'm a little bit undecided, I guess, as to whether or not that's a good thing, because so many kids are overlooked nowadays because they don't hit the high 90s in high school or college, and yet they know how to miss bats. And is it more important to have the ability to blow a guy away because at the big league level, you know, they have less time to see a baseball, or to just know how to pitch and miss bats and upset timing?
Full count. And Park swung through a 96-mile-per-hour fastball, the 3-1 pitch, and then on 3-2 got another 96-mile-per-hour fastball and tapped it foul.
Tommy John and Greg Maddux and those kind of guys probably would never get drafted today because they don't have enough arm to light up a radar gun. And yet, you know, between the two of them, they won over 500-600 games.
Another 3-2 to Park. 97 lifted foul. And we don't know what's going to happen in this at bat, but I think this is what the Twins have seen from Park, that the 96-97 hasn't overpowered him. You know, he's made contact. They've been 2 weak foul balls, but he hasn't been, you know,
fooled
or extraordinarily tardy.
Yeah.
And there, 98
there
down and away on the black, and that's going to get a lot of hitters out.
Yeah,
perfect
what everybody's
pitch.
looking for.
Perfect pitch by Asuno, and he has a 1-2-3-6, and he has finished off the 5th inning and retired all 3 men here in the 6th. To Toronto.
As we look at today's game summary, Twins got on the board first. Brian Dozier leads off the game. Danny Santana follows with a single. Joe Mauer, a base hit up the middle. And that scores the Twins' first run. Kurt Suzuki adding to the thing. Darren Mastriani. And then, of course, Danny Santana getting his second hit, driving in 2 in the 2nd inning. That's the Twins' runs right there. Blue Jays, on the other hand, had a big 5th inning where Irvin Santana led off the inning with a few base hits. Twins brought in Corey Williams, who had a walk and a base hit to tie the game, and now Trevor May coming out to pitch the 7th inning here for the Twins.
First pitch popped to the right side, and Dozier calling off Plouffe, who's over there now. 1 away, and that's not Brian Dozier at second base either. 1 down. Wholesale changes for the Twins. And that was Levi Michael now in at second base. One down, and that'll bring up Dominic Brown. James Beresford is in at third. Eduardo Nunez at short.
Santana is now in right. Mastriano is still in center. I think Arcia and Santana have switched. Arcia in left.
Check swing foul. 1-1. About a week and a half ago, Trevor May was told he was not in the mix for a starting role. The Twins wanted him to condition himself, prepare himself mentally as well to be a starter in camp. And then once it became apparent that everybody was pretty healthy and Twins were going to have at least 6 people fighting for 5 spots, they decided to tell Trevor something he probably didn't want to hear, but probably internally expected to hear it, that he'd be back in his relief role that he served so well last year for the Twins. And now he's in an every other day mode where he will pitch every other day to try to adjust to his role. There's a liner to third, and that's Beresford with the catch. 2 down.
Interesting conversation I had with Paul Molitor at the end of the season last year. We talked about Trevor May, and he looked me right in the eyes and he said, "Jack, what do you think about him as a starter?" And I said, "There's no doubt in my mind that he could be a fine starter." I said, "But I imagine it's awful difficult for you to take him out of his effective role in the bullpen. He's done such a good job." He says, "That's exactly the way I look at it." He says, "It's hard for me
Can you hear me?
to be in the bullpen
Test.
or put him in the bullpen and or as a starter when he's been so good in the bullpen." And here he is, right back where he was last year.
1-0 to Kochman. And it, in a way, goes back to what you were talking about before. Everyone is looking for late inning velocity for their relief pitchers. And May, once he was moved from the rotation to basically a 1-inning
2-pitch guy.
But his velocity picked up as
and
well.
it should, because now he only has to throw maybe 6 hitters instead of thinking about 27 outs. He's got to think about 6 outs, and he's gained 4 to 5 miles an hour on his fastball, and that should happen because you can let it go. You don't have to be so kind of controlling and pacing yourself the way you do as a starter.
Twins saw that years ago with LaTroy Hawkins. He was a starter and was throwing 92, 93. And then once he was given a late inning, 1 inning at a time role, they saw 96 and 97. And what separated LaTroy was he was still throwing 94, 95 as a 40-year-old last year.
Last year for the Blue Jays.
Yeah. 3-2 to Kochman with 2 gone quickly here in the top of the 7th. Well, there's 94 in a good spot down and away.
Well, it's not a discredit to anybody, but I have witnessed in my years of covering baseball and playing baseball that there have been many guys that were kind of on the border as a starter that found a role in the bullpen. But it rarely happens where a bullpen guy comes back and becomes a starter.
Good inning for Trevor May. 3 up, 3 down. Kurt Suzuki will join us when we come back. Jack Morris here in Fort Myers. We got a tie game going to the bottom of the 7th. Tim Meza finishing up his warm-up tosses. We're very happy to have Twins catcher Kurt Suzuki joining us from the end of the Twins dugout. Kurt, this is the time of the year I would imagine you're ready to get the real season started.
Yeah, for sure. You know, you stop wasting your hit down here and try to get the season going and get ready to start up again.
Kurt, we've done a lot of analyzing about this Twins pitching staff, and I don't think there's anybody better than you to give us your assessment of where they are right now. Last tune-up for Irvin Santana today, but overall the boys pitched pretty well. Yeah,
they've been throwing the ball real well. You know, obviously Irv threw the ball well today. His last start before his opening day start, and you know, everybody's been throwing the ball good, kind of ramping it up here last few days. So it's good to see.
Can you really tell as a catcher where a guy's at? I mean, I know politically it's good to say everybody's ready, but and not to pick out one guy or two guys, whatever, but can you tell as a catcher whether you think they're ready to start the season or if they're not quite there yet?
Yeah, I think the command aspect of getting ready, I think, always comes last. I think the arm strength's always there. You know, it's just fine-tuning their command and putting the pitches where they want to, and you know, when you set guys up and stuff. So I think that stuff, when you see guys starting to hit their spots and consistently do it, you know, pitch by pitch, then you know the guy's ready to go, feeling good about himself.
Kurt, I guess it was over a week ago I had a chance to talk with John Ryan Murphy, who now will serve as your backup catcher, about what it's been like for him coming over to a new organization, and he credited you with being a resource that he could use to get to know a pitching staff in a hurry. And from your perspective, how important is that for you to share what you've learned over the last 2 years about this Twins pitching staff with a new guy who really doesn't know much about, you know, Kyle Gibson or Trevor May or anyone like that?
Yeah, I think it's huge. You know, I think, you know, as a unit, you know, you want to know pitchers inside and out, and you know, he's such a great kid, a very talented, you know, baseball player, and you know, he's real fun to work with. I think we're going to have a lot of fun this year. We're going to do really well this year, and you know, just working together. You know, he's got some ideas that he bounces off me. I pick his brain about some things that he did in New York, about certain hitters, especially, you know, guys that he's faced a lot. So I think that you know, we with the information that we both have, I think bouncing off each other, I think it's going to work out well.
Centeno, the guy who allowed Kurt Suzuki to take his chair and do this interview with us, relieving him behind the plate, bounces out, 2 down. And that'll bring up Darren Mastroianni.
Kurt, you've been around the block a little bit. I've said on the air many times how durable you are. You're the kind of guy that calls a great game, and yet you take a lot of foul balls. You take a lot of foul tips, and you get beat up behind the plate. Is there any magic to the fact that, I know you take good care of yourself, you've always been in good shape, but you know, to take that kind of abuse, how do you tell a young catcher that might fill your shoes someday and teach them that mentality?
You know, it's just, I think, you know, it's just something that I don't want to say you get used to it, but at a certain point you kind of do, where it's part of the gig. I think being a catcher, you understand the dangers of catching and you know, opportunities that you're going to have to take a lot of foul tips, you know, each game, and you just got to learn how to go through it and figure out ways to get things done. And I think that mentality, you just have to go out there knowing things are going to happen. So when it doesn't happen, you're really happy. So, and when it does happen, you're kind of like, well, I knew that was going to happen. So I think you put yourself in that mindset of just battling through it. I think, you know, understanding that you're never going to feel 100%, but the big thing is knowing how to get through certain things in certain situations.
2-2. How long after the season can you say physically that you're 100%? Your thumb doesn't hurt, your knees don't hurt, or whatever?
I take about a month off. You know, I do a month off and I just spend time with the family and just kind of relax the mind, relax the body, and just enjoy life. And then you get back to the grind again. You start working out and getting your body back in shape. But I don't think it takes too long, you know, for me. I think about 4 weeks and I'm ready, chomping at the bit, ready to get going.
Mastroianni with a doink to right, another base hit, his second of the ball game.
Curtis, as a starting pitcher, I remember many, many times where I would be just about to release a ball, and I knew that my arm angle and everything was messed up. And I knew, and I would almost yell, no, because I knew that ball was going to get crushed. As a catcher, can you anticipate a foul tip or a ball in the dirt that you might know that's going to kind of bang you up in a way? Does that ever cross your mind, or is it just you react to it because it happens?
I think definitely the balls in the dirt, you know which ones are going to hurt, and which pitcher, you know, especially a guy has a good split finger, good curve ball, you know, something that they get a lot of swings and misses on. The spins coming off the ground real hard, you know it's going to be, it ain't going to feel good if it hits you in the skin. So I think the balls in the dirt, you can tell which guy, 2 strikes, this guy's probably going to bounce it, and it's probably not going to feel good. So you kind of have an idea.
Levi Michaels, a batter. He's got a 1-1 count with 2 down, and Mastroianni, a base-stealing threat at first base. All right, so Kurt, what's it going to take for this Twins team to take that next step forward? 83 wins last year, a couple games short of the second wild card spot. And for this team to win 85 or more games, what needs to happen?
I think we just got to stay with the process here. You know, I think we got a lot of talent on this ball club. Everybody's getting along real well. We're gelling together as a team. And I think it's just consistency, you know, going out there on an everyday basis, playing hard, playing the game the right way, doing the little things to help the ball club win. You know, doing things like that. You know, you're going to go through your ups and downs. You know, it's pretty naive to say that you're never going to, you know, go through a down part of the season. But I think the faster you can shorten those times, the better off you'll be. And that's just doing the little things. You know, that's what, you know, Molly really emphasizes in extra work, early work, you know, in the backfields, is doing the little things right. And that's going to help you win ball games.
Michael with a foul to the screen. Mastroianni with a steal of second is now in scoring position.
I think you hit it right on the head, Kurt, and it just shows where you're at in your career. You understand that everybody's going to fail. This game is all about failing. And yet, whether you're a pitcher or a hitter, an everyday player, that, you know, it's how well you adjust to that tough time, because everybody's going to go through it. And I think you bring that veteran leadership to this ball club because you understand it probably better than anybody.
And Michael takes a called third strike. That ends the 7th inning and ends Kurt Suzuki's cameo. Thanks for the time, Kurt.
All right, thanks, guys.
Good luck to you,
Kurt.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right.
Go to the 8th inning, tied at 3.
Need help with your launch? See
Studio sports update. Spring training action continues as we inch closer to the regular season. Tomorrow it's the Twins and Red Sox at 12 noon. We look forward to seeing you then.
Next to last home game for the Twins here in Hammond Stadium. 81 home games left at Target Field, and the Budweiser Roof Deck is the ultimate Target Field experience. And you can book it for Labor Day, Independence Day weekends, as well as April 13th. Up to 250 of your closest friends, family, clients, and more will enjoy the amenities, the view, and the game. Go to twinsbaseball.com/groups for more. Ryan Presley had his season cut short a year ago. He rehabbed his strained latissimus dorsi muscle. His back pitching has been healthy. The velocity's been there, and he won a job out of the Twins bullpen. And Presley can hit 94, 95. He just missed with a 94-mile-per-hour fastball. And I think we've seen that over the years, Jack. The Twins might have been late to the party when it comes to having power arms in the bullpen. But now May, Presley, Fiend, 93, 94, a little pop-up right field. Santana comes in, shields his eyes with his gloves, sunglasses on, one down. The Twins have, velocity-wise, a more representative bullpen than they used to have.
Yeah, you look at some of the guys that were in the bullpen last year versus the power arms, you know, the Trevor Mays, and you mentioned the pitcher right now, Ryan Presley. And, you know, what that can mean, well, it means a lot, and that's why the Twins have been looking for that. Guys that can command their pitches and still have the velocity to quicken up a hitter's bat and make them jump out early. And, you know, Brian Dunsing, as good as he was for many years, his velocity wasn't there to do that anymore. And, you know, it's a case where a little new blood and guys that, in Lane Presley's case, a reconditioned arm, it gives you optimism that this ball club can maybe have a better bullpen than they had last year.
Dunsing, by the way, signed a minor league deal with the Royals, but he was released the other day. 2 strikes to Casey Hobson. And Presley with that big sharp breaking ball gets a strikeout, 2 down. Well, and we've talked about, you know, the Twins are midway through a wave of talent among position players with first, you know, Hicks and then Buxton, Sano, Rosario, guys like that. Well, the next wave might be a very impactful relief pitching. Mason Malatakis, JT Chagua, and some others. Alex Meyer, we can't forget about him if he can figure out, you know, how to throw more strikes. He still has one of the strongest arms in the organization. So there's a whole layer of young pitchers that the Twins, Nick Birdie was very impressive in camp this year, throws in the upper 90s and threw more strikes.
Well, it's no secret to the veteran baseball people that really understand what it takes to win world championships, and you have to have pitching depth. It's more important. Everything else is for show. I always say you hit for show and pitch for dough. It's like putting in golf, you know, and yet everybody's searching for extra pitching and that solid pitching staff, but it's a hard thing to accumulate, and the Twins are in a better position now than they were the 4 years that they just were sub 500 team.
Another one of those, to use the cliche, knee buckling curves, gets over for a called strike 2.
Whoa.
And 94 head high over the front line of the batter's box. Got Meyer's attention.
Well, that one literally slipped. You can see the catcher sitting down and away, and that ball just shoots out of his fingers. Presley kind of turning around as to let the whole world know that it slipped.
2-2.
You could tell that was coming. I could have told the whole world that, guess what? It's a breaking ball.
Meyer did an awfully good job getting a piece of that. You wouldn't be human without thinking about the prior pitch, and then he did not jelly leg the breaking ball. He got a piece of it, hung in there. Two and two to Meyer. And another breaking ball spun over the screen.
Now that one was kind of that hanger, and he's kind of lucky that he got away with that one. Meyer just following it back, but the ball was left up in the zone a little too much. And Ryan, part of spring training, you're working on those pitches. You hope to be able to get a 2-strike pitch that they either swing and miss or chase out of the zone. You want to keep it down, and if you're going to throw that breaking ball.
And there's a breaking ball in a really good spot. He gets a strikeout, and he, like Fiend and May, with a 1-2-3 inning coming out of the Twins bullpen. Myers. The Twins have one more game here tomorrow. Then the Twins will go to D.C. to play a couple of exhibition games and then open the season Monday in Baltimore. We are Dick Bramer and Jack Morris. Bert Blyleven will be on the broadcast tomorrow. And the Blue Jays have one more lefty they brought down from Dunedin, Florida. Number 9, Colt Hines, and he'll pitch to Danny Santana.
Got a little funk in his windup. It's kind of a sidewinder. He'll throw it from on top and over on the side, a little 3/4. And the Twins need a run here to be able to finish it off in the 9th.
It'll be Santana, and then I'm looking forward to seeing Daniel Palka, who's taken over in the DH spot for Joe Mauer, a left-handed hitter, who's had quite a brief but very impactful season down here in Grapefruit League play. Talk about Palka when he gets here to the plate. 1-1 to Santana. Single and a double his first 2 times up. It looked like he might have gotten another base hit in the 5th, but Dominic Brown made a nice charging catch and doubled up Dozier off of first. Hook foul, watch out. And a wicked foul over the Twins dugout, which of course reminds us to tell you something you already know, that Target Field's extended the netting and everybody okay. And Santana fouls one the other way, but Target Field's netting behind home plate was already in compliance with the new standards by Major League Baseball, but the Twins on their own decided to extend it, and I personally applaud them for it. Yeah. I'm not a season ticket holder that might have a more obstructed view of the game from the dugout area, but my goodness, I just saw way too many fans getting hurt at ball games last year.
It's been fashionable, you know, in the last couple of decades to put the fan experience closer and closer to the baselines, and it's just that much quicker in those reaction times to have foul balls come that way. So hopefully nobody gets hurt.
Well, as you know, home plate is 60 feet 6 inches from the mound, and the closest seat at Target Field is marginally closer to home plate than the mound is. And so we hope for a safe season at Target Field. Santana with another hit as he hooks one into the left field corner. He has had that type of spring.
Well, Danny Santana turned around hitting right-handed for the first time today, and doesn't seem to affect him either way. Like you mentioned, Dick, he's had a great spring, and he just hooks this one down the left field chalk line and easily gets to second base, so he's in scoring position. Twins would love to see him touch home plate here.
And now Daniel Palka, who has had 5 at-bats in Grapefruit League play and has 3 home runs. Now the Twins got him from the Arizona organization for backup catcher Chris Herman. And we didn't, you know, Palka's not played above Class A ball. He takes a strike, then a ball. But in his last 2 years in Class A ball, less than 1,000 at bats and 51 home runs in the minor leagues. And the Twins have, you know, it's easy to look at some guy's stat line from minor league baseball, but then you see him in games and you see his real power, and the Twins feel like they may have gotten a steal in this young man. He's an outfielder. Swing and a miss.
He doesn't get cheated.
No, but you
can't hit home runs unless you take a good rip at it, and he did that right there.
6'3", 225.
That's what I used to be.
Well, you're still the 6'3" part, right?
I think so.
Off-speed pitch, and Palka got a piece of it. He's 24 years old. And he might be, as intriguing a prospect as he is, swing and a miss, he might be in the worst organization in the major leagues as an outfielder, because he's got 3 outfielders who've already won starting spots for the major league club who are younger than he is.
Yeah.
1 down. And
that's going to do it for Colt Hines.
Colt Hines faces a switch hitter and a left-handed batter. And the Twins will leave Santana at second with one out for a pitching change here in Fort Myers.
Twins spring training.
This game with the idea that it would be a bullpen game, and boy has it ever been a bullpen game. The eighth pitcher coming into the game for the Blue Jays. This guy's name is John Stilson. And Reynaldo Rodriguez will hit in what was Trevor Plouffe's spot. Go ahead run at second with one down. Taken low, ball one.
Well, if I know Paul Molitor at all, Stilson better keep an eye on Danny Santana here, because Danny's getting that walking secondary lead, and if he feels that he can get a good enough jump, Paul might just have him straight steal third base, so a fly ball would score him.
And there he goes. And the throw not in time. There you are.
All right, I'm done. Spring training. I'm ready to go.
You're in midseason form. There you go. Stolen base, and the base that Santana did not advance during the Palka at bat, he took with a stolen base.
And he made it look easy. I don't know as though he got that great a jump off of Stilson there, but the throw was a little bit high. Danny just accelerated as he stole the base.
Infield in now for the Jays. And a strike call, 2-1. Rodriguez in his fourth year in the Twins organization, signed as a minor league free agent. The winner before the 2013 season. Swing and a miss, 2-2.
It's a case now with the count evened up at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Rodriguez just needs to shorten up and try to put the ball in the play. You can't afford a strikeout here. That would definitely take the wind out of the Twins' sail. Infield's playing in, like you mentioned. Just got to put the ball in play.
Up and away, close pitch, full count. Rodriguez has been in the Yankee organization, Red Sox organization. This is his 11th year of professional baseball, and yeah, this is a big at bat for him. He wants to prove that he can be a good situational hitter. Drove in 80 for the Rochester Red Wings team last year. And he takes a walk. Took some close pitches to get that walk.
Well, sometimes for a pitcher, that walk is not a terrible thing. Now you're going to face a guy that doesn't run all that well, and Oswaldo Arcia. You got a guy at first base that is not a super speed demon. And if you can roll a double play ball, you get yourself out of a jam. Arcia's got to be real selective here and be able to hit a ball in the outfield somewhere.
And that rolls away briefly from Quintero. And that's Wilkin Castillo now doing the catching. It wouldn't take much of a fly ball to score Santana from third. 1-0 to Arcia. And off the plate, 2-0. Arcia today, a couple of swinging strikeouts and a ground ball to second. And foul, chopped, 2-1. Didn't get the dead red on 2-0 and got a piece. Yeah, swing and a miss, 2-2. 98 miles per hour off the outside corner. Gets a swing and a miss.
He doesn't look like a guy that can touch 98, but Stinson reared back right there. That ball exploded out of his hands.
Runner goes, and the pitch lifted foul and out of play. Rodriguez took off, got a good break. Talked about this during our telecast before. I'll be curious in situations similar to this, how, to use a football term, how much more of Paul Molitor's playbook will be put into play here. Delayed steals, things like that.
Well, he's starting Rodriguez at first base in this situation just to stay out of the double play ball.
And there's ball 3. And Rodriguez steals second base. So that would take care of the double play possibility and will very likely bring the infield in here for the Jays. A couple of stolen bases here in the 8th inning. And now a full count to Arcia, and here comes the infield in.
Well, they got to throw a strike in this situation. You don't want to walk the bases loaded. So Arcia's got to look for something that is in the hitting zone and don't miss it.
Pulled through the hole to right. Santana scores. Rodriguez will be held, and Arcia with a good at bat drives in the go-ahead run.
And that's the timely kind of hitting that Paul Molitor's looking for from Oswaldo Arcia. He delivers. A hitter's count, 3-2. You know he's got to throw a strike. Ball's over the middle of the plate, and he finds a hole on the right side and drives in the go-ahead run.
Pitch left up, and Arcia hooked it through the hole. And, of course, with the stolen base, first base was open, and Jays could have walked Arcia to maybe set up another double play possibility, but instead they pitched to him, and he got the single. Now Beresford takes outside, ball 1. Beresford taking over the spot in the batting order held by Park, who went 0 for 3 today. Beresford will accompany the team to D.C. Had a good year last year at Rochester, continues to impress in spring training. And there goes Arcia with a pitch flared foul, 1-1. Twins doing some running here in the 8th inning with Santana stealing third, Rodriguez stealing second, and even Arcia trying to get into the act.
Again, I think this is just more of a case where Paul Molitor just doesn't want to be put in a double play situation. Extend the inning if you can and put up a couple more runs on the board.
1-1 to Beresford. Just get the sense being here and seeing how busy the Twins have kept Beresford that he's one they're keeping an eye on this year. There goes Arcia, and the pitch hacked foul again. It's not so much just the game action, although he's played everywhere in the infield quite a bit, third, short, second, and first. But he kind of had a breakout season last year, if you will. He's always been able to hit. He's a .285 minor league hitter. Hit over 300 last year for Rochester. Doesn't have power.
No, he's also a kind of guy that you never know. The Twins might be trying to add to his value on the trade market. And I'm not saying they are, but, you know, the more they can expose a young player that's done well, there's scouts at every single game, and everybody knows that the more the organization plays their own guys like that, that they might be part of a trade talk or at least mention his name.
He did not play his first year after being signed out of Australia. This is his 10th year in the Twins organization. Eduardo Nunez struck out his first time up. Fouled off the catcher, a strike. Nunez did not enjoy a good spring training, but he's on the team. And whether you do well or maybe in this case even more so, if you haven't had a good spring and you're a veteran like Nunez, you want to get the season started to just kind of get spring training flushed out of your mind. He had some throwing issues. Twins have worked with him on trying to settle that down a little bit. Flipped foul, 2 strikes.
Yeah, in Eduardo Nunez's case, it's more of his track record, what he's been able to do in the past than winning a job in spring training. Jobs in spring training are for younger players than him, and you know, everybody would like to have a good spring. Nobody wants to have a spring where they struggle or make some mental mistakes or throwing errors or those kind of things. But you know, veterans have the ability to put that behind them a little bit better than young kids. And you know, Paul maybe is looking at him like, well, we know what he can do. Just get it out of the way, and maybe once the bell rings, he'll be able to continue on course that he's always been on.
1-2 to Nunez. Right on the outside corner. 97 miles per hour. Nunez strikes out. The Twins get a couple of hits, a walk, a couple of stolen bases, and they've retaken the lead in the 8th.
It was my first.
Wins in a row here in Florida, with one more game to play here tomorrow against the Red Sox.
Just a reminder, this copyrighted telecast is brought to you by authority of the Minnesota Twins and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent of the Minnesota Twins.
Alex Wimmers, former #1 draft pick for the Twins out of Ohio State, will pitch next. Wimmers was drafted #1 or in the first round, 21st overall back in 2010. His 7th year of professional baseball. Last year had a okay year at AA, part-time starter, part-time reliever. He has had some control issues in the past, but hopefully has dealt with those. And he will try to pick up a save in a spring training game here. Wilkin Castillo, the first man he'll face. And Castillo takes up ball 1. Had a much better year last year as a reliever than a starter. And so he may be in the minor league level a version of Trevor May. Remember earlier in this game, Ryan Presley came in, and that was kind of his story. He struggled as a starter in the minor leagues, and started to turn the corner as a reliever. The Twins drafted him in the Rule 5 draft because of what they saw of him pitching out of the pen, and it might be that Wimmers will fit that mold. Chopped foul, 2-2.
Oh, good to see him. You know, I've known Alex for a while. I went to instructional league a few years back, and he went through a tough thing as a pitcher. The yips, you know, it's where, you know, he's drafted high and he's highly thought of, and he's, you know, up there in the front of the Twins as far as prospects, and then all of a sudden he just has this mental block and has trouble throwing strikes, and he's worked hard to get through that, and here he is in spring training, even though it's at the end and he's not on the roster. You know, this is an important inning for him to show a lot of people that he can get the job done.
3-2 pitch, a big pitch for Wimmers. He gets a weak pop-up to short left. Nunez is there for the catch, one away. And that'll bring up Melky Mason. And actually, it's Derek Lovelace hitting in what was Mace's spot. One down in the ninth. And Wimmers misses low, ball one. And a 94-mile-per-hour fastball sailing inside, 2-0. Twins will see the Blue Jays fairly early at Target Field in the middle of May, and then they'll make their one trip to Toronto at the end of August. 3-0. Wimmers now with back-to-back 3-ball counts.
Yeah, you just don't want to put base runners on. You've got a 1-run lead.
91-mile-per-hour fastball for a strike. And 93 gets a foul ball, and it's a full count again. Chopper to second. Levi Michael is there. 2 up, 2 down in the ninth.
Good job of coming back there, falling behind 3-0 in the count, and throwing 3 straight fastballs, challenging the hitter, and gets him to ground out to second.
And a small victory for Wimmers. I mean, the Twins know that he's walked a lot of guys, but to be in this situation, a 1-run ball game in the ninth inning and a couple of 3-ball counts, and he's managed to throw strikes and avoid walking people. 2 down. And Roman Fields will bat. And missing again. Tomorrow, Kyle Gibson will start against the Red Sox. Hughes and Nolasco will pitch in D.C. against the Nationals. Will start. And we mentioned Tommy Milone will stay here in Fort Myers and get some workouts done. Malone pitched yesterday and will join the team in Kansas City. Another 3-ball count.
Kind of wonder if Tommy Milone had any say in that, if it was just a decision made by Paul and his staff, maybe Terry Ryan, or if it's, you know, and I'm not second guessing it at all. I think it's not a bad move, you know. And I guess I'd ask you, if you were a player, what would you rather do? Go north for 4 days with the team, get your bullpen in on the side, or stay here and get your work by yourself? What would you rather do?
Well, one of the factors, I think, for me, would be the fact that we've got a night game Thursday in Baltimore, and we will get to Kansas City and get to the hotel 2, 3 in the morning, whenever it is on Friday morning.
So what if they let you go early out of Baltimore?
I'm not going to be used in long relief. I'd prefer to stay here.
Okay. That ought to do it.
One more chicken marsala at my favorite restaurant. Fly ball to center. Wimmers has 3 3-ball counts, but he has a 1-2-3 ninth inning. And again, for whatever it's worth, the Twins now have won 7 straight here toward the end of Grapefruit League play. And they scored 3 early runs against the Blue Jays and ended up winning the game 4-3. We'll wrap things up from Fort Myers in a moment.
It's the final days of